In 1944, a man was officially executed by the U.S. government. Doctors declared him dead. A death certificate was signed. But he didn't die. And years later, the government tried to kill him again. This is not a movie plot. This is not some wild conspiracy theory. This is the true, documented story of Willie Francis, the only person in American history who survived the electric chair, only to be sent back to death row to die a second time. It's a story that forces us to ask some very uncomfortable questions about justice, punishment, and the power of the state. So stick with me, because the details of this case are more shocking than you can imagine. Our story begins in 1944, in the small town of St. Martinville, Louisiana. A well-known local pharmacist, Andrew Thomas, was found shot and killed at his home. The murder sent shockwaves through the community, and the pressure was on to find the killer. 9 months later, the police arrested a young man named Willie Francis. He was just 16 years old at the time. Willie had been found near Port Arthur, Texas, and under police interrogation, he confessed to the murder. Now, on the surface, this seemed like an open and shut case. But when you look closer, the cracks start to show. The evidence against Willie was incredibly weak, largely consisting of this confession, which many believe was coerced. The gun used in the murder was never found, and perhaps most disturbingly, Willie's court-appointed lawyers were a disaster. One of them reportedly showed up to the trial drunk and barely participated. The trial itself was rushed, lasting only 2 days. Despite the lack of solid evidence and questionable legal representation, the all-white jury found Willie guilty and sentenced him to death by electric chair, at just 17 years old. Willie Francis was now on death row. The date was set, May 3, 1946. Willie was led from his cell to the execution chamber. He was strapped into a portable electric chair, a grim device nicknamed Gruesome Gertie that was moved from parish to parish to carry out executions. The executioner, Captain Effie Foster, and his assistant, Vincent Venezia, were reportedly intoxicated. They had set up the chair themselves. Despite not being trained electricians, the switch was pulled. A massive jolt of electricity was supposed to surge through Willie's body, ending his life instantly. But something went wrong. Horribly wrong. Instead of the silence of death, the room was filled with Willie's screams. He was convulsing, his body straining against the leather straps. Witnesses heard him yell, "Take it off! Take it off! Let me breathe!" The electricity was flowing, but it wasn't enough to kill him. It was just enough to torture him. The sheriff ordered the executioners to give him more juice, but they couldn't. The chair had been set up improperly. After a terrifying few minutes, they turned off the power. Willie Francis, gasping for air and in immense pain, was still alive. Doctors rushed in and confirmed it. He had survived. A failed execution. The first of its kind in American history. Now, you would think this is where the story ends, a sign from God, a second chance, a legal loophole. Surely, after botching an execution so badly, the state would commute his sentence to life in prison. You would be wrong. The state of Louisiana's position was simple. The sentence was death by electrocution. Since Willie hadn't died, the sentence hadn't been carried out. They would simply try again. This decision sparked a legal firestorm. Willie's case was taken up by a new team of lawyers, led by Bertrand de Blanc. They argued that putting Willie through the electric chair a second time was a violation of the Eighth Amendment, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. How could anything be more cruel than forcing a man to face the electric chair twice? They also argued it violated the Fifth Amendment's protection against double jeopardy, being punished twice for the same crime. The case was unprecedented. The local court sided with the state. So, Willie's lawyers did the only thing they could. They appealed to the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court. The nation watched as the case, Francis v. Resweber, was argued. The core question was this: does a second execution attempt, after the first one failed due to mechanical and human error, constitute cruel and unusual punishment? The court was deeply divided. In a stunning 5-2 decision, the Supreme Court ruled against Willie Francis. The majority opinion stated that the cruelty was not in the execution itself, but in the intent. Since the malfunction was an accident and unforeseeable accident, it wasn't intentionally cruel. They argued that the state wasn't trying to torture him. They were just trying to carry out a lawful sentence. Therefore, Louisiana had the right to try again. The legal nightmare had become a reality. Willie Francis was going back to the chair. 1 year and 6 days after he first survived it, on May 9, 1947, Willie was walked back into the same execution chamber. He was strapped into the same chair, gruesome journey. This time, however, the state made sure there would be no mistakes. They hired a prison electrician to ensure the chair was wired correctly. As he was being prepared, a reporter asked him if he had any last words. Willie reportedly said, "I'm not dying. I'm going to see my Lord." The switch was pulled. This time, there were no screams. There was no malfunction. The machine worked exactly as it was designed to. Willie Francis was pronounced dead just a minute later. He had survived death once, but he couldn't escape it a second time. He was just 18 years old. The story of Willie Francis is a dark and disturbing chapter in American history. It exposed deep-seated issues of racism, poor legal representation for the poor, and corruption within the justice system. The confession he signed was likely forced, and later evidence even suggested that the sheriff might have known who the real killer was but framed Willie instead. The case forced a re-examination of what cruel and unusual really means. It stands as a chilling reminder of the fallibility of our justice system. And it leaves us with a terrifying question that has no easy answer. If the government fails to kill you once, do they really deserve a second chance? If this story shocked you or made you think, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into forgotten history. Let me know in the comments what story you think we should cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.